The Baltimore Bridge collapse disturbs the supply chain yet one more time. Now, I know that the Baltimore Bridge collapse is catastrophic in many different ways, from families that have been affected and people in the Baltimore area being affected. But one thing that we focus on is real estate investing. And one of the biggest things right now with the Baltimore Bridge collapse is how it's affecting our supply chain yet again. After the pandemic, China shutting down, import and export, not being able to get to the United States from West Coast, East Coast, or even down south. Baltimore has one of the largest imports of freight from all over the world. And so when the 5th largest port on the East Coast and the 15th largest port coming into the United States overall gets affected and disrupted by this, it's going to affect our supply chain. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're in construction, you're a developer, you're a fix and flipper, you're a syndicator doing value add, you got to listen up, because it's going to affect each and every single one of us in some type of way, directly or indirectly. Now, if you ignore it, it's going to be indirectly, but it's still going to be affecting you. If you pay attention to this, it's going to affect you directly, but now you have options to migrate from. But this will help you in budgeting your investments over the 2024 calendar year as they rebuild the Baltimore port of entry for goods and services that are coming into this port. Now, look guys, over $58.8 billion have come in import into the United States from this port in 2023 alone. This is a multi-trillion-dollar port where trillions of dollars of import and export get taken in and out of the United States every single year. And so now that that bridge has collapsed and that has to be rebuilt, boats cannot come in to deliver items or take items out. So import and export are now going to both be affected out of that port. Now, directly, here's how it's going to affect the market. This port has predominantly been known for bringing in vehicles, big bulldozers, excavators for construction, and it is known as the 5th most important port in the entire United States. Now, it also constitutes for 16% of plywood that comes into the United States. As plywood is coming in, also includes like housing veneer, all the gypboard that comes in. In fact, on the gypboard, this constitutes for over 14% of the U.S. supply of gypsum board that comes into the United States. It also accounts for raw milled lumber for 3% of all of our milled lumber that comes into this Baltimore port. So understand that as construction materials get bottlenecked and cusped on this, we're going to feel the effects of it. You're going to see it at Home Depot. You're going to see it at the large lumber mills. You're going to see it all across through construction materials, including electrical transformers. We're lucky that electrical transformers has been one of the biggest things that's been cusped in new builds, especially for multifamily. And 1% of all electrical panels come in through this port. So it's not the large port for electrical panels, but understanding that a 1% variable still affects it. When we were building our apartment complexes post-pandemic, one of the biggest items of availability that we had issues with were electrical panels. And so when we were doing like our Youngtown project, for sake of example, we didn't realize that there was a cusp of time that it was going to take in excess of 15 months to get these panels in. So what we were forced to do, and this is going to continue with lumber, and this is also going to continue with construction materials and even electrical panels, as catastrophic, unforeseen variables like this happen in our world. And so when you're going in, you're building multifamily, we're having to order our electrical panels when we're turning dirt, where typically we wouldn't go in and order these panels until after framing was done, electrical roughing was finished, and then we would order our electrical panels so that we can mount them and then start working on trying to power up the building at the end of construction. If you do that in today's current market, you'll have no power and your building will sit empty without a certificate of occupancy, with the inability to power up those panels for your new tenants, ultimately pressing investors to service the debt on those properties until they can get those electrical panels, whether you're doing a value add remodel and just bringing the current state of the building up to code, or whether you're doing new construction ground up. And so it's really important that you know this stuff, because if you're doing any type of renovation in the commercial sector where you need large quantities of electrical panels or breakers, this will affect it in a small, modest way, but still affect what still hasn't become corrected since post-pandemic. So if it's taking 15 months to be able to get these panels in, account for it today in today's real world market. Now, do I feel like the lumber circumstances are going to put us back to our 2021 numbers where lumber was 3 times the cost that it was pre-pandemic? I don't believe that it's going to put us there. But I do believe that there is going to be a modest increase in lumber that we're going to feel in the building sector. Ladies and gentlemen, when you take plywood, which constitutes for 16% of what comes into that port, and then you take a raw mill lumber of 3%, then you take gypsum materials of over 14% of our U.S. supply that comes in from that port, we're going to fill it. And so if you take an increase in that magnitude of 15 to 20% increase, we will fill that type of lumber threshold increase over the course of the next year until that port opens back up. So fortunate for us, lumber has went down almost 100% in cost of where it was in 2021. So where we were paying for a single family home to be built, an entire lumber package, including trusses, was about $80,000. Today, it's about $45,000. Now, with that said, expect to pay prices on a single family, 2,500 square foot home with a 3-car garage. Expect those numbers to maybe go up as high as $55,000 for an entire lumber package. And so as you're underwriting your deals and as you're looking at this from an investment perspective for multifamily or single family, understand that about a 20% threshold of increase for lumber materials should be expected as we move into the summer months. Now, the summer months always constitute for higher construction materials because fuel prices typically go up. And a great indicator to follow lumber is to follow the cost of fuel. As you follow the cost of fuel, we know that most of our transport happens from the port to the end consumer on the retail perspective through semi-trucks. And when fuel becomes more expensive, transport becomes more expensive. As transport becomes more expensive, middleman markups become more expensive. As middleman markups become more expensive, the end consumer at the retailer, which is you and I, land up paying more. So the cost of those homes, again, are affected to the end buyer with inflation. It's not just interest rates, ladies and gentlemen. There's natural disasters, just like the pandemic and just like the Baltimore Bridge. So, ladies and gentlemen, understand that we should expect to see an increase in lumber. Summer months always constitute for higher prices in lumber anyways because summer travel, vacation, people on the road, driving more places, fuel in airplanes, all of that affects supply and demand. And when there is more demand, prices rise. So summer months, travel always goes up. Prices in lumber and commodities will also go up. Anytime there's a natural disaster like a hurricane, a tsunami, some type of natural disaster like the Baltimore Bridge, expect that commodities will increase in price. Underwrite them and budget for them. I believe that this will be right around a 20% increase in construction materials over the course of the time for that the bridge and that port is shut down in order to be able to offset the loss of import that we'll have to find other ports of entry for them to come into the United States from. And until the United States does that, for a short and modest time, expect the increase in prices. Ladies and gentlemen, right now is the time for you to be buying land and building houses and also investing in affordable housing options for end users. There hasn't been a time in this U.S. soil that we have needed housing more than we need it today. And like a great mentor of mine once said, he said, Jerome, find a solution to an ever-evolving problem. And when you do, you'll amass fortunes greater than you ever expected. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is now. The opportunity is yours. If you're an investor, the time to invest is today. Don't wait for the Baltimore Bridge to be rebuilt and the solution to everything that's happening to weather. In spite of what's happening, in spite of high construction costs, the world is migrating, and you should too. The time to invest is today. If you like this content, you want more just like it, smash that thumbs up button, click and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's keep our investments moving, and let's keep profits rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, always be out there working and compounding your success. I'm going to drop a video at the end of this that'll teach you guys how to build buy a piece of land, build a house from ground up, step by step. Click, watch, and we'll see you next time.